My mom cursed me out for refusing to fund my useless brother's $95,000 scheme, but when I cut them off, their world collapsed and they came crawling back. I'm Marco, 30 years old, male, and for the last 8 years I've basically been a walking Chase Bank for 3 grown adults. Well, no more. Grab your popcorn and listen to this train wreck. Read the whole thing, though, because these people know nothing about consequences, and it kept backfiring in a beautiful way. This whole show started when I was 22, fresh out of a cybersecurity boot camp, and I landed my first real job making $58,000 a year. My parents threw this whole dinner where they kept saying how proud they were, and I swear, before we even got to dessert, my mom was already dropping hints about my brother's rent situation. Dylan had gotten unfairly fired from his 3rd job that year, except it wasn't unfair at all. Dude had been showing up high and literally stealing from the register. Dylan is 27 now, and I'm pretty sure the last time he actually kept a job for more than 4 months was never. The guy's got this whole thing where he talks about how regular jobs are a scam and he's meant for bigger things. You know the type. One of those temporarily embarrassed millionaire guys. Meanwhile, he's been living rent-free in a condo with our parents that I've been paying for since 2019. Then there's my parents, Carol and Dennis. Mom used to run a dental office until she just decided at 51 that she was burnt out and quit, with no real retirement savings or anything. Dad was in insurance sales and took early retirement at 54 because he wanted to enjoy life while he was still young. They're both completely healthy, completely capable of working, and completely fine with letting me bankroll their whole early retirement lifestyle. I know that sounds stupid, but I admit I was stupid. I'm making $115,000 now doing senior security analyst work. That should be pretty good money, right? Except I've been living in the same tiny 600 square foot apartment for 5 years, because literally every extra dollar just goes to keeping them comfortable. Let me break down what I was paying every month as of late 2024. Their condo lease in Phoenix is $2,800, and it's completely in my name. Utilities run about $200. Dad's car insurance is $180. The family phone plan is $240. And then there's this joint credit card I was stupid enough to open about 5 years ago that my mom just treats like free money. She racks up about $2,000 a month on average. I'm talking DoorDash 3 times a week, Lululemon shopping sprees, premium cable packages, my brother's vape supplies, and whatever gaming subscriptions he's into. And then there's Dylan's whole entrepreneurial journey, which is basically code for expensive failures. First, it was day trading. He needed $8,000 for some course taught by a guru with a Lambo in all his YouTube thumbnails. Then lost everything in 3 months, trying to trade penny stocks while high. Then crypto, then NFTs. Over 8 years, I've given them close to $342,000. Not loaned given, as in it's just gone. Here's the breakdown. Dylan's failed business ventures alone. $67,000. Their condo, I've been paying since late 2019, so that's 5 years of rent at $2,800 a month, plus $5,600 for deposit and first month up front, comes out to about $173,600. Credit card debt I paid off directly for them, separate from the monthly charges, when they maxed it out and begged me to pay it off so they could start fresh, which they did by immediately maxing it out again. Car insurance, phone bills, utilities, subscriptions, streaming services, random emergency cash, medical bills, car repairs, and just random they needed over the years. $63,400. My role in the family got established pretty early. I was the responsible one. The family group chat was just a constant stream of everyone else living their best life. Dylan posting about his latest business idea, Mom sending photos from restaurants. I'd send money and get back like the barest thanks. My buddy Alan from work has been telling me for 3 years to cut these people off. Alan's this ex-Marine who just doesn't pull punches about anything. He'd see me eating ramen at my desk for the 4th day in a row while my family's posting brunch photos on Instagram, and he'd just shake his head. He told me once that I was bleeding out while asking them if they needed a tourniquet. I kept making excuses. Their family, they're struggling, I'm doing fine. Except I wasn't doing fine. I had maybe $2,800 in checking, and about $3,200 in savings. Total liquid assets, $6,000. I drove a 2006 Honda Accord with 180,000 miles on it, but I kept telling myself it was temporary. Then about 3 months ago, I started noticing Dylan getting real active in the group chat. Lots of screenshots about this crypto trading mentorship program. All these success stories of people making six figures in a few months, photos of Lambos and stacks of cash everywhere. He was clearly building up to something. I knew what was coming, the whole "this time it's different" speech. I just didn't know it was going to be the thing that finally made me realize I'd been a doormat for 8 years. So it was a Wednesday night, probably around 9 p.m. I was wrapping up some security audits from home on my third energy drink when the family group chat just exploded. Dylan drops this long message with like 100 fire emojis and rocket ships, big announcement about getting accepted into the Crypto Kings elite mastermind or whatever. This was the real deal. These guys had a proven system, 97% success rate. The founder supposedly turned $5,000 into $8 million in 18 months. Registration was closing Monday, and Mom and Dad were already helping him pack for the boot camp in Miami. My mom responded instantly with how proud she was of him. Dad chimed in about how Dylan had finally found his calling. I'm just sitting there staring at my phone. Miami boot camp, none of this sounds free. So I asked how much the program cost. He said the investment was $95,000, but before I freaked out, this included housing for the 6-week intensive direct mentorship with actual millionaires, access to their private trading algorithms, and lifetime support. People were making their money back in the first month, apparently. I took a breath and told him, "That's a lot of money, and I don't think I can swing that." The chat just went silent for 2 full minutes. Then my phone starts ringing. It's Mom, and I can already tell from her voice she's decided I'm wrong before I even explain anything. She literally can't believe I'm saying I don't have money when I make over $100,000 a year. I tried explaining that I'm already covering their rent, utilities, Dad's insurance, their credit card bills. I literally have nothing left. She makes this sound like I just told her I ran over her dog. Dylan's been struggling for years trying to find his path, and this is finally it. This is his chance. And I'm going to ruin it because I'm being selfish with money. Selfish, because apparently funding 8 years of failure wasn't enough. I told her straight up I literally don't have $95,000, I'd have to take out loans. Then take out the loans. This is your brother. This is family. Then she launches into this whole speech about sacrifice and how much they sacrificed for me growing up. I almost laughed. I'd given them over $300,000 in the last 8 years. She said that was disrespectful, that they never asked me to do that, which is complete BS because they absolutely did ask every single month for 8 straight years. Then my dad gets on the phone doing his whole reasonable dad act. "Marco, you should think about Dylan's perspective. He's been working so hard to find his thing. This could change our lives." "Dad, your son has never worked hard a day in his life. Every single venture I funded has crashed and burned. I've lost over $60,000 on his ideas alone. What perspective are you talking about?" Then he hits me with, "It's okay, you fail until you succeed. That's how it works." "No, not on my dime, I'm sorry." I heard them arguing and Mom grabbed the phone back and her voice went all icy. "You know what, Marco? Fine, be selfish, but don't come crying to us when you're old and alone because you chose money over family. We're done. You're dead to us. Don't show your face at this house again." Then she just hung up. I sat there holding my phone, heart pounding, dead to them because I wouldn't hand over $95,000. The group chat completely exploded after that. Dylan sent this whole essay about how disappointed he was in me, how I'd always been jealous of him, how I never supported his dreams. My mom said I was tearing the family apart. My dad said I was being short-sighted and immature. Then Dylan sent his final shot, "Hope you enjoy your lonely-ass life, bro. When I'm a millionaire, don't come asking me for anything." I looked around my apartment, my shitty couch, my laptop I'd been meaning to replace for 2 years but couldn't afford because they always needed something first. I'd literally prioritized their comfort over mine, and they called me selfish and dead to them. I went silent for a moment, then said, "All right then, let's see how that works out," and hung up. I didn't sleep that night. Not going to lie, it stung. But it also felt good, because I would show them now what dead to us means. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and coffee, pulled up 8 years of receipts, opened a fresh spreadsheet titled Financial Documentation, and started pulling every number I had, every transaction, every Venmo, every rent payment, every credit card statement. By 4 a.m., I had the whole thing laid out, $342,000 over 8 years. I made charts, graphs, a whole visual breakdown of how I'd basically set my 20s on fire to keep them comfortable. And I did something I should have done years ago. I Googled financial abuse family and spent 2 hours just reading. Turns out there's a whole term for what they'd been doing. financial exploitation, using guilt and manipulation to extract money from someone. The classic signs were all there, never asking how you're doing financially, only what you can give, promises to pay you back that evaporate, requests that keep escalating, threats when you finally say no. Every single article could have been about my family. Alan was right. I'd been bleeding out while asking them if they needed more blood. At 7 a.m., I texted Alan asking if he remembered telling me to cut them off. He replied in 30 seconds asking what the play was. Scorched earth. When the property management office opened at 8 a.m., I called and gave 30 days notice on the condo. Yeah, there was a penalty for breaking the lease early, 2 months rent, $5,600. I'd already paid $173,600 to house them. Another $5,600 to stop felt like nothing. Next was the credit card, joint account, my credit, their charges. Called and closed it immediately. Paid off the $3,840 balance right there on the phone. Car insurance, removed my payment method. They'd need to add their own or it would lapse in 7 days. Phone plan, family plan with 4 lines. I removed 3 lines. Their phones would stop working until they set up their own service. I went through every subscription, every streaming service, every shared account, canceled everything. The joint checking account with my mom. I transferred the remaining $2,100 to my personal account and went straight to the bank to close it. By noon, I was done. Every financial tie cut. And the feeling, man, I felt like I could finally breathe after 8 years. My phone was still silent. They didn't know yet. That was okay, they were about to find out. The first thing came at 2 p.m. I'm at work explaining some security protocol to a new hire when my phone starts buzzing. Mom calling. I just put it on silent and kept talking. It buzzed 7 more times in the next 10 minutes. Mom, Dad, Dylan, Mom again. Then the texts started flooding in. Mom saying the credit card wasn't working, demanding I fix it immediately. Dylan asking what the heck I did to his phone. Dad saying Mom was upset and to please call back. I just watched them panic, enjoying it a little bit. By 4 p.m., the messages got more frantic. Mom said property management just called about canceling the lease, demanding I call her immediately because this wasn't funny. Dylan asking if I was really going to be this petty over money. Dad saying this was going too far and we needed to talk like adults. At 5:30 p.m., Alan came by my desk and noticed my phone looked like it was having a seizure. I told him the family was realizing the gravy train had left the station. He grinned and said we should grab drinks. So we did, clinked our glasses to boundaries and freedom. My phone was face down on the bar, vibrating. 34 missed calls, 67 texts. Alan's like, they big mad. I scrolled through some of the texts. My mom had moved from angry to full victim mode. She couldn't believe I was doing this to my own mother after everything they'd done for me. I was destroying the family. Dylan said Mom was crying because of me and called me a freaking asshole. Dad said Mom was having a breakdown and this had gone way too far. Then I saw one from my Aunt Pamela asking what was going on. Mom had apparently called her sobbing, saying I'd cut them off completely. I texted Pamela back saying to ask Mom why I cut them off, to ask how much money I'd given them over 8 years, to ask what she said to me when I told her I couldn't afford $95,000. Then at 7 p.m., my phone rings with a number I don't recognize, Phoenix area code. It's Officer John with Phoenix PD. He's following up on a welfare check request. My mother called saying she was concerned about my well-being and wanted someone to check on me. I just closed my eyes. Unbelievable. I explained that no, I wasn't having any kind of crisis. I was having a drink with a friend. My mother called in a welfare check because I stopped giving her money. The officer asked if I was in any danger or had plans to harm myself. I told him, 0 danger, 0 plans. He asked what was going on with my mother, so I laid it all out. Long pause. Then he says, that's quite a situation, and it sounds like you're making a healthy choice for yourself. He documented that I was safe and let my mother know. Alan's just staring at me like, did your mom just call the cops with a fake welfare check? I told him, yes, she did. Wow, your family is psychotic. Then things escalated. At 8 p.m., the extended family group chat explodes. My mom sent this mass message saying I'd had some kind of breakdown, cut off all contact, canceled their housing, shut off their phones, and was refusing to get help. She said I wasn't responding to anyone, and they were all very worried. The extended family started chiming in with concern. And Aunt Pamela asked Mom if it was true that she told me I was dead to her when I couldn't give her money. The chat just went silent. Then Mom said Pamela didn't understand the full situation and that I'd been acting strange lately. They were just worried about me. I'd had enough. I opened the chat and typed one message laying out exactly what happened. They asked for $95,000 for another one of Dylan's schemes. I said no because I'd already given them $342,000 over 8 years and had basically nothing saved. Mom told me I was dead to them, so I took her at her word and stopped paying their bills. No breakdown, just boundaries. Then I attached the financial breakdown PDF, every transaction, every amount, 8 years of receipts. Hit send and immediately left the group chat. My phone exploded again. I just started blocking numbers. Mom's number, Dad's, Dylan's, then other relatives one by one. Finally, silence. Alan asked, "So what now? You're finally free?" "Yep, finally. Happy for you, dude. Took you long enough." When I got home that night, I opened my banking app. Checking, $1,847. Savings, $3,200. Total, $5,047. It wasn't much, but it was mine, and starting tomorrow it would actually grow instead of just disappear. Better late than never. I opened a new spreadsheet titled Financial Goals, Emergency Fund by April, new laptop by February, down payment savings by the end of 2026. For the first time in 8 years, I was planning my future. I slept better that night than I had in years. I woke up at 7 a.m., made coffee, and checked my phone. 17 new messages from numbers I didn't recognize. Blocked them all without reading. I knew what it was. At work, my boss Angela caught me in the hallway asking if my mom had called there yesterday. Turns out she'd called the main office line telling reception she was my mom and needed to speak to me urgently about my mental health. I apologized to her and explained that I'd cut off contact with my family for personal reasons, and they weren't handling it well. She asked if I was okay. I told her honestly I was better than I'd been in years. At lunch, my phone rang with another unknown number. Let it go to voicemail. It was Aunt Pamela saying she saw what I sent. Had no idea about any of this, but Mom was saying I doctored those records and was having some kind of episode. I ignored it. At 3 p.m., building security called my desk. There was a Dylan Webb in the lobby asking for me, said he was my brother. Tell him I can't see him, I'm in meetings. Security said he was insisting. I told him to call the cops if he doesn't leave. 5 minutes later, security called back saying he left but wanted me to know this isn't over. Alan overheard and said that was straight up a threat. I needed to start documenting all of this. He was right. I got home at 6 p.m. and immediately knew something was wrong. My apartment door was slightly open. Not kicked in, just open. I backed away and called 911. Cops showed up in 12 minutes. They cleared my apartment. Nothing was stolen, but someone had definitely been inside. Stuff was moved around, my laptop was open, papers on my desk scattered everywhere. The officer took a report and asked if I had any idea who would do this. I explained my brother had shown up at my work today making threats after I cut off financial support to my family. The officer suggested I document everything and consider a restraining order. After they left, I called my landlord about changing the locks. He said he'd send someone tomorrow. Then I called Alan and told him they'd broken into my place. "Man, document everything and get a restraining order like yesterday." "You're right. I don't think they'll stop. They're desperate. Desperate people can do anything." Then at 9 p.m., while I'm making notes about everything, my phone rings. Unknown number again. I answered it with my voice recording app running. It was my dad saying we needed to talk about this situation. Mom was devastated. Dylan was furious. This had gotten completely out of hand. I should just come to dinner this weekend and we'd sort everything out. I asked what exactly we'd be sorting out. The part where I gave them $342,000 and they called me dead to them, or the part where Dylan broke into my apartment today. Silence. Then he asked what I meant about Dylan. I explained that my apartment was broken into, cops were here, I'm documenting everything now. "Marco, you're being paranoid. Dylan wouldn't." "Dad, someone got into my apartment while I was at work the same day he showed up at my job making threats. Now you're calling from a number I don't have." More silence. I told him that was harassment and illegal. If Dylan came near me or my home again, I was pressing charges. Mom needed to stop calling my work and delete this number. We were done. I hung up and blocked it. I lay in bed that night listening to every sound in the building. This was going to get worse before it got better, but I was done being their victim. After my mom showed up at my apartment building, the doorman didn't let her up, but she literally waited outside for an hour. I decided enough was enough. I contacted Peter, this lawyer Alan recommended who does family law. I met with him and brought everything, my entire financial breakdown, 8 years of bank statements, every text message where they'd asked for money, plus documentation of everything since I cut them off. the fake welfare check, Dylan showing up at work, the break-in police report, the calls to my workplace, my dad calling from unknown numbers after I'd blocked them. Peter read through all of it. Finally, he looked up and said, "This is textbook financial exploitation, and the behavior since then is straight-up harassment. We can file for restraining orders against all three of them." We filed the next day. I requested orders against my mom, my dad, and Dylan, detailing every incident. The judge granted temporary restraining orders 2 days later. They had to stay 500 feet away from me, my home, and my workplace, and couldn't contact me directly or indirectly. The cops served the papers on all three of them about a week after we filed. I know exactly when it happened because my phone exploded with calls from 3 different unknown numbers. By 5 p.m., I had 28 missed calls and 56 text messages. When I got home, I went through the voicemails. Mom's voice was shaking with rage. She'd just gotten served with a restraining order from her own son. I'd lost my mind. This was absolutely insane. She was my mother. I couldn't do this to her. She was calling a lawyer. Dylan's was next. What the heck? Why a restraining order? He just came to my work to talk like an adult, and now he can't come within 500 feet of me. I was freaking psychotic. Dad's was the only calm one, which somehow made it creepier. He was very disappointed. The restraining order was unnecessary and cruel. They were my family and deserved better than this. I deleted all of them and forwarded the numbers to Peter so we'd have documentation that they were violating the temporary orders. The full hearing was scheduled for about 3 weeks later. Then, maybe a week after they got served, I got served at work. Process server handed me papers right there in the lobby. It was a lawsuit filed by Carol and Dennis Webb against Marco Webb. They were suing me for $150,000, claiming I had borrowed money from them over the years and was now refusing to pay them back. I actually laughed out loud sitting there in my car. They were claiming the money I'd given them was actually loans I owed them. They were getting creative. I called Peter immediately. He said to bring him the lawsuit and not to worry, it was clearly retaliatory and frivolous. The restraining order hearing happened on a Tuesday morning in early February. Their lawyer tried arguing that I was just retaliating over a family disagreement, that restraining orders were extreme, that I should just avoid them if I didn't want contact. Peter presented 8 years of evidence, showed the texts where they called me dead to them, showed the police report from the break-in, showed documentation of the fake welfare check, showed the whole pattern of escalating harassment. The judge read through everything. Finally, she looked up at my family and granted the permanent restraining orders. No contact for 3 years, had to stay 500 feet away from my home or workplace. She also noted that their lawsuit looked retaliatory and suggested they should think real hard about whether continuing it was a good idea. About the lawsuit, Peter filed a motion to dismiss it as frivolous and retaliatory. After another month and a hearing where we presented all the evidence that these were clearly gifts and not loans, the judge dismissed their lawsuit with prejudice and ordered them to pay $6,200 of my legal fees as sanctions for filing a frivolous lawsuit. My mom was crying when that ruling came down. My dad looked like someone had punched him. Dylan was just staring at the floor. Peter and I walked out of that courtroom, and I felt like I could actually breathe for the first time. It was over. Legally, it was over. 3 months after the restraining orders became final, I moved. New apartment, nicer building, 2 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows, gym in the building, $1,850 a month, and worth every penny. I'd saved $18,000 since cutting them off. Actually had an emergency. Fun now. Had investments. Had a life that was actually mine. Alan helped me move. We ordered food and played PlayStation in my new living room. I'd also started dating someone, Allison. Met her through a friend. She was a nurse, funny as hell, had her shit together. When I told her about my whole family situation on our 3rd date, she didn't run screaming, just said, "Good for you for setting boundaries." Everything was finally stable, calm, normal. Then on a Saturday in May, Aunt Pamela called. My mother was in the hospital. She'd collapsed, stress-related, high blood pressure, anxiety stuff. She was okay, but they were keeping her overnight. Then Pamela dropped the real bomb. They were basically homeless now. My parents and Dylan had been staying with Pamela for a while, but she had to ask them to leave because Dylan kept causing problems. They'd been bouncing between their car and cheap motels for a few weeks. Pamela said Mom was asking about me, that she had something she wanted to tell me. I reminded her there was a restraining order in place. She knew, but said Mom was in the hospital and looked awful, had lost probably 30 pounds. Part of me wanted to rush to the hospital. The other part knew better. I told Pamela I was sorry she was going through this, but I couldn't help. She had to figure this out herself. 2 weeks later, my dad sent me a letter to my old address. My landlord forwarded it to me. It was 2 pages handwritten. He wrote as my father, not as someone trying to manipulate me. Mom wasn't doing well. The stress had taken a serious toll. Dylan was finally realizing his schemes weren't going to work. He'd been applying for real jobs now. Dad said they were wrong. They took advantage of me, treated me like an ATM instead of a son and brother, and when I finally stood up for myself, they lashed out instead of listening. It sounded sincere, hit all the right notes, and I didn't believe a single word of it. I took a photo of the letter and texted it to Peter, asking if they'd violated the restraining order. He said technically yes. If I wanted to pursue contempt charges, I could. My call. I said not yet, but document it. 2 days later, I got an email from Dylan to an old email address I barely checked anymore. Subject line, please read. He said he knew I didn't want to hear from him and he didn't blame me. He was a shitty brother, more than shitty, a complete leech, a user. He took everything I gave and never even said thank you. The crypto thing was stupid. All of his ideas were stupid. He was chasing easy money instead of doing actual work. Well, at least he's right about something now. He was working now, Pizza Hut. Not much, but he's trying to save up for his own place. Then he said he's sorry, just wanted me to know he got it now. I stared at that email for a moment, then forwarded it to Peter. He said it was another violation, but not threatening, my call if I wanted to pursue it. I thought about it for a while, then typed out a response to Dylan. I said I appreciated the email and hoped he was being sincere, but I couldn't have a relationship with him or the family right now, maybe not ever. What happened damaged me in ways I was still processing. I was glad he was working and trying, but that didn't undo 8 years of BS. I needed them to stop contacting me. This was the last time I'd respond. He replied 2 minutes later saying he understood and was sorry I wouldn't hear from him again. Good. I blocked his email. That night, Allison and I were having dinner at my place. I told her about the letter and the email. She asked if I thought they were really sorry. I said being sorry didn't give me back 8 years. Being sorry didn't rebuild trust. She squeezed my hand and said I didn't owe them forgiveness. She was right. 6 months after the restraining orders, my life was completely unrecognizable. I'd saved $47,000, almost halfway to a down payment on an actual house. I'd gotten another promotion at work, senior security analyst to team lead, $135,000 salary plus bonuses. Allison and I had moved in together. Her lease was up and it just made sense. We worked. Alan and I still grabbed drinks every Friday. He'd become my brother in the way Dylan never was. I was happy. Actually genuinely happy. Then in August, Aunt Pamela called again. She said right off the bat she wasn't calling on their behalf. My parents had been evicted from some cheap motel they'd been staying at and were in a shelter now. Mom's health was getting worse. Dad had some minor health scare last month. Dylan actually had a steady job now, but couldn't afford to take care of them on a Pizza Hut salary. Pamela wasn't asking me to help them financially. She was calling because Mom asked her to give me a message. She understood if I never wanted to see her again, but she wanted me to know she was sorry, that she was wrong. I asked Pamela, what do you want me to say? That I forgive her? That I'll ride in and save them again? Because I won't. I know, she said. I wasn't going to ask you to. I told her they were in that situation because of choices they made, not choices I made. Well, you're right. I can't argue with that. By the way, are you doing okay? I'm doing great. Happy for you, sweetie. I thought that was the end of it, but nope. In September, I got another letter from Mom forwarded from my old address. Same violation of the restraining order, same documentation, but I opened it anyway. She was writing from a women's shelter. Dad was in a men's shelter across town. Dylan was sleeping in his car between shifts. She said she was wrong, not just about the money, about everything. She raised me to be reliable and responsible, then weaponized those qualities against me, made me feel like my worth was tied to what I could provide. Taught me that love was conditional on my usefulness. She didn't see me as a person with my own needs and dreams, just saw me as a solution to their problems. And when I stopped being that solution, she lashed out like I'd betrayed her. But I hadn't betrayed anyone. I just finally stood up for myself. She was so sorry. She didn't expect forgiveness and said she didn't deserve it, just needed me to know she saw what she did now. I deserved better from them. Deserved parents who celebrated my success instead of bleeding it dry. Deserved a brother who supported me instead of used me. Well, she was right about that. I read it 3 times, then put it in a folder with all the others, documentation of their continued violations. About a month later, I got a notice in the mail. My parents had filed for bankruptcy, and there listed among their debts was $150,000 owed to Marco Webb for loans. They were still at it, still trying to claim I owed them money. I was right. These people will never change. I called Peter immediately. He said this was a problem. They were committing bankruptcy fraud by listing a fake debt. We needed to file an adversary proceeding in bankruptcy court to contest it. We filed within the deadline, provided 8 years of evidence that every single dollar I'd given them was a gift they'd requested. The bankruptcy trustee reviewed everything and issued a ruling in early November. The claimed debt was disallowed, meaning it got thrown out completely. The trustee's report noted that the debtors appear to have misrepresented the nature of these transactions and referred the matter to the U.S. Attorney's Office for potential fraud investigation. I got a letter from the trustee's office in mid-November. The case had been referred to federal prosecutors. About 3 weeks later, I got a call from Assistant U.S. Attorney Rachel. She was handling the bankruptcy fraud referral. They'd reviewed my evidence, said it was very thorough, and were considering moving forward with charges. She asked if I'd be willing to testify if it came to that. I thought about my mother in a courtroom, my father, both of them facing federal charges because they couldn't stop trying to exploit me. I said yes, I'd testify. The charges got filed in late December. Aunt Pamela called. She'd heard the news and said Mom was wrecked. Good, she did this to herself. A trial date got set for March, but in early February their public defender contacted Peter. They wanted to plead guilty, take a plea deal. Part of the plea process involved victim impact statements. Peter asked if I wanted to write one, so I wrote it, 3 pages, didn't hold back at all. I detailed the $342,000 I'd given, the opportunities I'd missed, the damage to my mental health, the therapy I'd needed, the fear I felt when they broke into my home, the humiliation of them calling my workplace, the betrayal of them suing me after everything I'd done, and finally the absolute audacity of them committing bankruptcy fraud by trying to claim I owed them money. I ended it with, I don't want them to go to prison, but I want them to understand that you can't abuse someone for years and expect no repercussions. I want them to understand that I was a person, not an ATM. The sentencing hearing was in late February. I didn't go, didn't want to see them. Peter went and called me afterward. They both pled guilty to 1 count of bankruptcy fraud each. They got 3 years probation, ordered to pay restitution of $6,200, 200 hours community service each, and the existing restraining orders got extended. Now they'd be in effect for 5 more years from the date of sentencing. The judge apparently read my victim impact statement out loud in court. Peter said Mom was crying through most of it. The prosecutor had recommended this sentence instead of jail time because of their age, lack of criminal history, and their current circumstances. But the judge made it real clear this was serious, and any violation of probation would result in jail time. Peter said it was over, legally done. They couldn't touch me for years. This whole chapter of my life was finally closed. Allison came home from work and found me just sitting there. Marco, are you okay? Yes, it's over. They pled guilty, got probation, restitution, extended restraining order. I'm finally free. She smiled. We should celebrate that. We did. I took her out for dinner. We ate, drank, and laughed. I've never felt happier.